The chaos, where order meets chaos. The chaos, where order meets chaos.
Hello, welcome back to The Chaos. I'm John Baeta. Today I want to talk about production. What is it? And I want to talk about it mainly because it is something that keeps popping up everywhere. On social media, on LinkedIn, on TVs, in the mouths of commentators and politicians. The idea that in Portugal we work a lot, that we work long hours, that we are resilient, sacrificial, always giving more, staying late, wearing the jersey. Let me be clear, yes we are. Or at least in most of cases I believe this is true. I do see tired people, also committed people. People giving more than what is asked of them. But at least for me that's not the real issue. Working hard is not the same as producing a lot. And producing a lot is not the same as creating value. If hours worked were the same thing as value created, then all we'd need to do is stay at work until late, and the country would be rich. And it isn't. Far from it. So the uncomfortable question is not whether we work hard. It is, are we working on the right things? From a very early age, we're taught to associate effort with merit. In a perfect world, it will be like this for sure. But unfortunately, the world isn't perfect. Persons aren't perfect. Life is a mix of feelings and decisions, good and bad ones. If someone is exhausted, they must deserve recognition, right? Probably they should, but if people work long hours, they must be good professionals. Not necessarily. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Because if we really think deeply on it, the real world doesn't reward effort at all. It rewards value. And value does not necessarily come from a massive effort. Think about it. For example, Facebook. The initial idea behind Facebook as an idea probably didn't require extraordinary effort. It wasn't years of physical sacrifice and brainstorming to reach a brilliant idea. It was a simple connection between people, in the right context, at the right moment. Okay, the execution was brutal, of course. But the initial idea unlocked enormous value, and that alone shows something important. Effort and value are not proportional. Some things demand huge effort and create very little value. Others, with relatively little initial effort, unlock massive impact. Production is not suffering, it's not sacrifice, it's not ending the day exhausted and saying today was hard. Production only exists when something changes for the better for someone. If nothing changed, there was no production. There was activity. And that's hard to accept because it touches identity, it touches fairness, it touches that inner feeling of I gave everything. But at the end, giving everything to something that doesn't matter still doesn't make it matter. There's a brutal difference between being busy and being productive, between doing a lot and doing what matters. And this confusion is dangerous because it creates a collective illusion, the illusion of progress, when in reality we're just burning energy. So, at the end, the problem is not working hard. The problem is working without criteria. And once you start looking at production this way, something becomes obvious. There's a lot of honest, serious, hard work being done to produce things that create no real value at all. And that's where these words of mine stop being comfortable. Let's move away from ideas and talk about things you can actually touch. In the real world, production doesn't lie. You can't hide waste behind nice words. Imagine a farmer working from sunrise to sunset, long days, hard physical work, no rest. At the end of the harvest, great, the warehouses are full, a lot was produced. But if nobody wants to buy that product, or the market is saturated, or the price doesn't even cover the cost, the effort was real. The work was real. But the question remains, was this production or wasted work? The problem wasn't lack of effort. It was lack of judgment in deciding what to produce. Another nice example of a series that I like to watch. Clarkson's Farm. Very funny, the interaction between Jeremy and Caleb. You should watch. In Clarkson's Farm, Jeremy Clarkson bought, as expected, a huge tractor, a Lamborghini, a beast. Beautiful, powerful, a lot of horsepower. But it doesn't fit the farm. It was too big, too heavy, completely impractical for narrow, uneven fields. Probably an excellent tractor, but in the wrong context. There was engineering, some investment, but there was no usefulness, and without usefulness there is no value. Looking into Portuguese politics, the crazy world of the Portuguese politics. Some time ago, there was some health minister stating at the parliament, very loud, that this was the biggest ever investment on health infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. A brand new hospital, modern, well built, fully equipped. I thought, great. But after I do realize, did they think about how to get the required people to work on it? Doctors? Nurses? Currently, we don't have enough people on the health public sector. Did they plan how to solve it? Oh, I really hope so. Although I have my doubts. I bet that will be a great building, but a fully operational hospital? People don't go to hospitals to admire architecture, they go to be treated. If the core function doesn't happen, production failed, no matter how good the building looks. And maybe the hardest decision would have been the right one, spending a bit less on concrete, to spend some on people, to retain doctors and nurses. If the goal was just to have a beautiful building, then let's be honest about it. Let's ask the Guggenheim Foundation to ask the late Frank Gehry to design the hospital. At least then we wouldn't pretend it was a hospital. It would be a piece of art with artistic value. This might sound ironic, but it's deadly serious. Production that fails at its main function creates no social value. And without social value, the investment loses its meaning. The same logic applies to other things like software. How many times have you heard your organization or the government saying, "This is the software we need to do this"? A powerful system, lots of investment. It does everything and a little bit more. But then in practice, no one can use it. It's not intuitive, not user-friendly. It requires training after training, almost a university degree just to perform basic tasks. The software exists, it works, it's installed. But it's not properly used or not used at all. So the question is, if no one can use it, where is the value? It might be technically brilliant, but its uselessness, well coded. And this is where things become very clear. Production cannot be seen in isolation. Production must generate value, and value has more than one dimension. There is economic value. Without financial sustainability, nothing survives. There is social value, improving lives, building skills, creating trust, real impact, not symbolism. And there is something we often ignore, functional value. It has to be used, it has to serve, it has to solve a real problem. If production fails in any of these dimensions, someone pays the price. Sometimes with money, sometimes with frustration, sometimes with lost trust, sometimes with systems that exist but don't serve. And most of the times with all of these. Once you start seeing this pattern, you will not be able to unsee it again. It will be everywhere. Projects, companies, public sector, individual decisions, producing without thinking about the whole system, risk us to create half the value and paying the full cost. And when that happens repeatedly, it's not bad luck, it's a pattern. So, on this terrible notice, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. Producing is a choice. Choosing what to do, choosing what not to do, choosing where to put resources, choosing where not to put them. And that's uncomfortable, because choosing means taking responsibility. It's much easier to work hard than to decide well. Much easier to fill agendas and plans than to say, this makes no sense. Projects rarely fail because people didn't work. At least the ones that I have been around. They failed because a lot of work went into something that didn't create enough value. Because no one had the courage to stop, or to say no, or to ask, does this still make sense? Leadership is often described as making things happen, but very often leadership is stopping useless things from continuing to happen. Because everything that gets produced consumes something. Time, money, energy, people. And those resources are not infinite. When something creates no economic value, someone pays the bill. When it creates no social value, someone is left behind. When it creates no functional value, someone ends up frustrated. The cost is always there, even when the value isn't. Production is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. And sometimes the most productive decision is not to move forward. It's to stop, to review, to redefine. That's not laziness, it is maturity. Working hard can be admirable and good for your ego, but it's not a success metric. We don't need complex numbers and KPIs. It is quite simple, even if it's uncomfortable. What changed for the better because of this? If the answer is nothing relevant, then there was no production. Maybe there was effort. But effort without judgment is not virtue. It's well-intentioned waste. Maybe it's time we stop being so proud of the hours we work and start talking more about the value we create. Because at the end of the day, effort fades, impact stays, and that's it. I hope my effort results in some impact on you. Thank you very much for listening. This was The Chaos.
The chaos, where order meets chaos.